My name is Ethan Carter. I am 44 years old. A staff sergeant assigned to a logistics unit at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. 7 days ago I came home from the field expecting my 5-year-old daughter to run into my arms. Instead, I found her unconscious on our hardwood floor while my wife sat watching television, telling me calmly she should have listened. A paramedic pulled me aside at the hospital and told me, "Mom, sir, I don't think you know who you're married to before I tell you what happened next. Please hit like and subscribe. Drop your city and local time below. I love knowing where you are listening from." Now, let me take you back 12 years, to a woman everyone in our town believed was the kindest person they had ever met. I met Rachel 12 years ago at a 4th of July picnic in Clarksville. Just back from an overseas deployment, she worked for a regional home security company and volunteered with Habitat for Humanity. On weekends, everyone knew her. The cashier at Kroger, the pastor at church, neighbors who borrowed her tools. She had an easy warmth that made people trust her before she'd spoken more than 3 sentences. Army life was never easy. Training, deployments, missed birthdays. Rachel seemed steady, safe, exactly what I believed our daughter Lily deserved when Lily was born. Rachel built blanket forts in the living room, taught her to ride a tiny pink bicycle in the cul-de-sac, read Goodnight Moon until Lily memorized every page. The changes came slowly. Rachel didn't like me having dinner with people from my unit. She'd ask innocent-sounding questions. "What time did you leave? Who was there? Why didn't you answer your phone if I stopped for gas?" She'd ask why it took so long. I told myself marriage required compromise when I mentioned it once to my friend Marcus. He shrugged. "Some people are just protective." That word stayed with me. Protective. It sounded so much better than controlling. Coming home after a week in the field, I found Lily lying near the front door, her pink sneaker off, one small arm bent beneath her, breathing shallow. Rachel didn't stand up, didn't lower the television volume. She should have listened, she said, as if that explained everything. She threw a fit. I handled it. At the hospital, paramedic Mike Sanders pulled me aside after seeing Rachel in the driveway, arms folded, refusing to ride along. He told me quietly he'd responded to a domestic violence call 8 years earlier. A woman with a broken wrist and a concussion, and a little girl about Lily's age who wouldn't let go of her mother's shirt. I recognized her face yesterday. Mike said I never forgot it. Sitting in the waiting room, memories I had dismissed for years lined up like puzzle pieces. Lily no longer running to greet Rachel at the door. Lily's kindergarten teacher gently asking if she'd been sleeping well. Drawing a lot of storms lately. The bruises Rachel always had an explanation for. She ran into the coffee table. She slipped outside. Explanations that came from Rachel, never from Lily. The last thing Lily whispered before I left for the field, "I'll be extra good," echoing now like a child trying to survive rather than simply being sweet. Mike Sanders handed me an old business card with a faded case number written in blue ink. Something about that call years ago that never sat right with him. "If I were you," he said, "I'd ask for the police report." That night, after Lily fell asleep beside me, I searched Rachel's full name. Nothing unusual surfaced, until I remembered Mike's exact words. That wasn't the last name. I searched Rachel's birth date. Instead, a property record from Nashville appeared. -1 years old. The owner's first name matching, the birthday matching. But the last name was Holloway, not Carter. Rachel had never once mentioned another last name in 12 years of marriage. At the Montgomery County Courthouse the next morning, the clerk retrieved an old archived file. A petition for a protective order. Petitioner Samuel Holloway. Respondent Rachel Holloway. Same birthday, same first name, same face. Only the last name changed. The petition described repeated intimidation, controlling behavior, property damage, threats. The order had been requested, then withdrawn 6 weeks later, with no explanation on file. At the sheriff's office, An older deputy's eyebrows lifted when I mentioned the name Rachel Holloway. He couldn't discuss confidential records, but quietly suggested I speak with a retired detective named Frank Delaney, who apparently remembered the case well. I wish this had gone differently. I wish 12 years ago someone had told me plainly what Rachel truly was, instead of letting me build an entire family on a version of her that never fully existed. But wishes do not undo 12 years of careful performance. The truth as I sat in my truck outside that courthouse and let myself feel the full weight of what I had missed. Not from weakness, but from finally understanding how completely I had been managed alongside my own daughter. I called Frank Delaney the next morning. "This is Frank," he answered. I told him my name, that a deputy had given me his number, that I believed my wife used to be Rachel Holloway. The silence that followed told me more than any words could have. That night, after Lily was finally asleep and Rachel had gone quiet in the next room, I sat alone at the dining table with Frank Delaney's callback still fresh in my mind. Everything he had confirmed about the original protective order, the withdrawn petition, the pattern that matched exactly what I had watched happen to my own daughter over the past 2 years. Just before midnight, I contacted a family law attorney and requested an emergency custody filing, attaching the courthouse petition, Mike Sanders' statement, and the hospital's concussion diagnosis as supporting documentation. 12:03 in the morning. I am 44 years old. I am, for the first time in 12 years, no longer the husband who explained away every bruise as an accident across the house. Rachel was almost certainly still confident her explanation to the doctors had settled the matter completely. With no idea, a retired detective and a decade-old case file had just confirmed exactly who she really was before she ever became Rachel Carter. The emergency custody petition was filed within days, supported by Frank Delaney's willingness to testify about the original Holloway case and Mike Sanders' documented recollection from the hospital. Rachel's attorney initially dismissed the filing as retaliatory, until the withdrawn protective order and the matching birth records made the pattern impossible to ignore. Rachel was granted only supervised visitation pending a full investigation, and I was granted temporary sole custody of Lily. When confronted directly with the Holloway case file, Rachel's explanations collapsed exactly the way her excuses about. Lily's bruises always had, to smooth, to rehearsed, to quick to blame a child for what an adult had done. She looked at me the way she always had, expecting a husband who explained away every uncomfortable question for the sake of peace. I was not that man anymore, and I had not been since the moment Mike Sanders told me he never forgot her face. I always believed that 12 years of marriage meant I truly knew the person sleeping beside me. I understand now that what I knew was only the version of Rachel she wanted the world, and eventually me, to see. The real evidence was never in what she said, it was in the silence that followed every time someone else tried to ask the right question. Rachel's case remains under formal investigation, with the Holloway petition now part of the official record. Frank Delaney and Mike Sanders both provided statements supporting the custody filing. As for Lily, she runs to greet me at the door again now, the way she used to, and sleeps soundly beside me most nights without needing to whisper promises about being extra good. I think about that faded business card every time I open my wallet now. And I think the people who spend the most energy controlling how they are seen are usually the ones with the most reason to be seen clearly. If you have ever discovered that someone you trusted completely had a history they worked hard to erase, I want to hear your story. Tell me in the comments, and if this one moved you, subscribe to Dad's Revenge Tales. There is more where this came from.